Banner sounds and Baby Yoda, you know.
Only 4 beers? Really?
Hey guys, welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we're just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. This is our review of The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 7, Chapter 7, The Reckoning. I am your host, the Mayor Jeff Hornacek, joined by the mad scientist Brian Banner to review this episode as we do all of our TV episodes on the 4 Squad TV criteria: the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and then any theories or questions that we have going forward. So, Brian Banner, episode 7 of The Mandalorian, the penultimate episode before we dive into acting and cast. What were your overall thoughts on what they gave us this past week?
Well, it actually advanced the story, which was a bright eye for this show. They haven't
Isn't that
done
a
that every
crazy
episode.
concept?
Yeah, it gets weird. Like, instead of just having a monster and a guest star of the week, they actually took us back into what they cock teased us with at the beginning of this series, and I like that. It's reinvigorated my enthusiasm for the show.
Yeah, they, you know, every time I was complaining briefly that like we were getting a monster of the week feel, I always had the caveat of I'm not going to be that difficult to win back over. If you just give me one
No.
solid episode towards the end of this thing where I feel like we're actually progressing the plot again, I'll be right back on board. I was never off board, but they did it here and they knew how far they could push us and then reel us back in, and it worked.
What this almost feels like to me is that Disney said, "Hey, let's make a movie about a Mandalorian," and they started developing this concept, and they even may have started filming it. And they had this idea of Baby Yoda, and then halfway through they go, "This isn't a movie, this is a show," and they broke that movie up into, let's say, 3 or 4 episodes, and then they threw those other 3 or 4 episodes at us that had nothing to do with the overall plot.
Yeah, that's a good
That's what
theory.
it feels like to me. But I'm not mad about it. It's fine.
No. So acting and cast, we had a returning cast of characters, not a new one this week, except for the very end. We had Nick Nolte back as Queel, Gina Carano as Kara, Carl Weathers as Grief, and then of course Werner Herzog returns as the client. So a lot of familiar faces, and now it kind of feels like, okay, this is why they introduced all those characters in separate episodes earlier in the show to kind of have them get the whole band back together here. So what did you think of the performances in this episode?
I absolutely love the idea of bringing Nick Nolte's character and Gina Carano's character together. They are
Yeah.
such drastic opposites. It made a lot of fun when they got together, and you have Mando kind of as this glue connecting them together. But at the same time, they're all driving towards the same goal of protecting this baby Yoda creature. Thought that was absolutely fantastic. Sun Faded Darth Maul, who Carano fought at the very beginning with that electric rope sex game. Um, Mainly, I just wanted to mention that, so we'll move on. Carl Weathers, really, really bad.
He
Like,
was rough in this, man, and he
really
actually had an
bad.
important role in this episode.
Yeah,
The whole time and I've kind of said this earlier, I don't know what we should be expecting from Carl Weathers, but he's like become a pretty pivotal figure in this overall storyline. And man, he did not have it. Like that scene, especially, I'll talk about it in a second, at the campfire where he was like poisoned. I was like,
yeah,
dude, is this the best you got? Like, this is horrible.
yeah. It this feels like to me, if they could recast it, they would, but they were like, shit, we're in too deep. I guess just it is what it is. They've Maybe it's also because everybody else is doing so well that it's just a huge eyesore at how bad he's doing.
Yeah, because I don't think Gino Carano is like some world beater. Like she's not going to get an Emmy nomination. But Nick Nolte is awesome as Q-Will, and then Werner Herzog obviously is like a cinematic legend. So anytime he shows up, it's like he just commands the screen. Just him being in the Star Wars universe is pretty cool to me. The fact that he,
Yeah, I think I don't know what Carl Weathers is better than this, than the performance he's giving. I don't know if he's trying too hard. It almost feels like he's trying to do like a Lando esque Han Solo mixture, and it's not working.
It's weird because he's played a lot of like, guys in law enforcement and like less than stellar moral character, like where they're kind of like anti-heroes. That's basically what Grief is, but for whatever reason, it's not
It's
hitting the
not
mark.
working.
I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, so I pretty much echo that. And then Pedro Pascal in this one was really kind of like I know his character was a big part of it, but to have all these other characters around him, it was kind of cool to see. This was like an ensemble cast episode where he didn't have to carry the ball 20 times. He could rely on other people, which is cool to see. And then the brief reappearance of Taika Waititi as the droid.
Yeah.
All right, the story. The plot synopsis, according to IMDb, says an old rival extends an invitation for the Mandalorian to make peace. And basically, Mondo is called back to help the guild, gets the old band back together to take on some of the ex-Empire members, and then they kind of have a plan to sort of swindle them out of reacquiring Baby Yoda, which metaphorically and it seems literally blows up in their face at the end. So a lot of advancement here, and I think the most important thing that this episode did was really set us on a crash course for what could be an interesting finale. So what did you think of the story?
Yeah, I loved it. It actually was 100% advancing the story, which, like I said in our opening, we haven't gotten that yet this season. Really, other than the first two, maybe three episodes. So it's nice to kind of go back to those roots, and now we know what we've been working towards. This definitely felt like a season finale slash second season opener setup show. We see what's going on. We get all the pieces put in place, and then obviously at the end with Khalil dying, we have that big cliffhanger. So I really, really liked all of that. One sore spot that I did not like. So this came out Wednesday. Rise of Skywalker came out on Thursday.
Right. Check out a review. Shameless plug.
Minor spoilers for Rise of Skywalker. So if you haven't seen it yet, skip ahead 30 seconds to a minute. But all of a sudden now, which we've never seen this in the Star Wars universe before,
Yep.
Jedi or the Force can heal people. We've never seen that before. And then all of a sudden they drop it in The Mandalorian, and then the next day we see it used heavily in Rise of Skywalker. I'm fine with it, but it feels a lot like the fucking dice in Last Jedi being shoehorned in there so they can put it into Solo, so they can sell fucking merchandise. I don't know how you're going to sell, like, I don't know, healing powers, but it felt very shoehorned in to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my only knock on the episode. Everything else worked for me. I like that they brought back, what's the droid's name? IJ-11 or whatever it is.
Like
Something like that. I like that they brought him back in a different facet, and I think that, well, that got the wheels turning for my theories here coming up later. But overall, top to bottom, it was a lot of fun. There was some action in it, which was cool. You had to use a little strategy. You had people flipping sides. I mean, it had everything that you want in a setup episode.
And it flew by. Like there was really not much time in this where we were kind of just treading water.
And was this episode longer than the other ones? This one was like 40 minutes. Usually they're like 25, 30, right?
Yeah, I think this, but again, it did not feel that way, which is a testament to pacing and how they really.
It's a huge compliment.
Right. One thing I am wondering though, and we can get into this a little bit more at the very end on theories, but this got us where we needed to go. Exactly. The finale is set up with enough lingering questions to where it's going to be fun, but not so many out there where it feels like True Detective season 3, where it's like, dude, I don't know how they're going to be able to satisfy a lot of these in a 30, even a 40-minute runtime if it's a little bit longer. But if this season ends, number one, in the locale that we think it's going to, and number two, tying up the plot threads that they've left dangling at the end of this, then at the end of this season, we really completely do not need episodes 5 and 6. Like, no, really, then nothing happened at all, because not even the characters from those return, because Cara Dune is from episode 4, and obviously Kuiil is from 2 and 3. So, I mean, again, we still have the reveal at the end of episode 5, I believe, which I'll get to again in theories, who actually stepped over Ming-Na Wen's body. But those episodes were literally just Mondo running and waiting to get this call from Carl Weathers' character, Grief. Which is the one thing, again, I'm glad they're progressing the story. I don't want to poo-poo them for that at all. But I think it just reinforces that point of those were basically filler episodes, which in an 8 episode, 30-minute show doesn't seem like you should need, right?
Right. And that's why I'm thinking that this was the idea was supposed to be a movie, and they
Hmm.
decided we have to break this up and elongate this and kind of stretch it out a little bit to make it these shows. Um, I also think though that by throwing those filler episodes in and having kind of these little side stories that they've had, you are I totally just lost my fucking
Well,
train of thought.
I was going to say one thing they did, and again, I'm like a pig to slop. I eat it up, but I get why people hate it. Was we got the fan service Tatooine episode, which again, we don't know the reveal at the end, but now that's basically feeling like that's all that episode was just kind of spoon
Yeah.
feed us stuff that we
Oh,
wanted to see. It really
I
doesn't
remember
know.
what I was going to say. So like that episode and the episode with Bill Burr in it where they're at the prison, those to me feel like they were thrown in there because they decided to drop this weekly. Let's say they went the binge method like Netflix does, these would not work at all. But because we have several days or a week in between each episode, they still kind of work.
Hmm.
I don't know we're
And
talking more
also,
about the show as a whole and not this episode, but I think it shows how well done this episode was compared to those filler episodes.
yeah. And again, even this show at its quote unquote worst is still really, really good. Like even the filler
Okay.
episodes were
Still having fun.
really well, really well made, incredibly well shot, and for the most part, well acted. So if that's the if episodes 5 and 6 of The Mandalorian are the low point of this first season, then tip of the cap. Really not much of
Yeah.
a complaint.
Sign me up for the next one.
Best scene, I have an honorable mention and then like the main one, but Baby Yoda choking Kara to help Mondo win at arm wrestling. Such a bro move, right?
So
It's like I
mine
got
is
you.
I have an honorable mention as well, and it's when Baby Yoda's fucking with all the controls and they almost crash. I thought that was hilarious.
Baby Yoda in the cockpit with the Mandalorian is going to be one of the things I'm really going to miss when this show ends. Like him fucking, we always talked about, he like messes with his radio presets and he's like
Yeah,
trying to turn the air conditioning on and off. And Mando has like let him mess with his controls probably more than he should. So now he has a level of comfortability that he really shouldn't have in the
right.
cockpit touching buttons.
Yeah.
If
I
Chris
think
Tucker's character from Rush Hour was there, he'd be screaming at Baby Yoda to not touch his radio.
that's exactly what he'd be doing. Um, I think that also when he is choking Carla is a really important aspect, even though it's an honorable mention because it was kind of funny, it's a super bro move or whatever. But I think that is going to come into play later on in the show, just how powerful this Baby Yoda is with the Force and not
Mhm.
being trained at all. I mean, we're assuming he's never been trained in any aspect. He's like a
Right.
2-year-old.
My real best scene, though, and again, I think the last 2 episodes, my favorite scenes have been ones with like this really dark, like red lighting, because I think they've just shot it so well, and it gets that like visceral feel of the original trilogy. But it was the campfire scene with the seemingly like pterodactyl attack.
It's
Number one,
exactly mine as well. I
well,
love that scene.
I love machine gun lasers. Anytime they use them in Star Wars, they're fucking awesome. Like the dude in Rogue One with the long hair
Yeah.
that has one and the backpack, that thing was so badass. And then to your point earlier, Baby Yoda using the force power that again will be alluded to in futures in the Star Wars universe of being able to heal a little bit. I think that helps make this feel like more of a part of the universe, which is always important, especially when the movies come out. Now, granted, it might have been shoehorned in and obviously strategically planned, but at least TV and the movies are talking. They're very, very well aware of what each other is doing, which is always nice to know.
Yeah, I echo everything you said. I absolutely loved that scene. I mean, we had on one of our past episodes somebody asked us, "Is The Mandalorian a true Western?" And obviously it is. This was the only element that we were missing from it really being a 100% Western was a campfire scene. We
Yeah.
got it. Everybody's kind of around the campfire, eating dinner, shooting the shit,
And
telling old
even
war
better at a
stories.
campfire when the people there don't trust each other. Like they're afraid to sleep.
Exactly.
They think they'll be robbed or killed.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they have to come together and fight this mutual enemy, which ultimately turned Carl Weathers' character from not turning Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian in to helping them, which was a very, very important part, and it was a very pivotal moment in the episode and in the overall arc.
And I don't know the name of those large, like blob things they were riding, but when those like pterodactyl dragons were trying to pick him up, the CGI was so fucking
It
good.
was incredible. There was a second there where I didn't even think it was CGI. I was like, wow, did they use puppets for all this? That's incredible.
Yeah, or maybe they
That
actually had auditions and hired real pterodactyls to come in and play the
they might
villains.
have. I mean, they've been out of the business for a little while, but they're running out of money. They need to, get their head back in the game.
Pterodactyls are criminally underrepresented in Hollywood. It's disgusting. You ready to move on to theories and questions?
Let's do it.
All right. Again, we only have one episode left. And I guess my overall question before I dive into a few small ones that I have is, do you think we will find out the origin of Baby Yoda? I think I'm almost more interested in that than anything else. Like, I just want to know where he came from and how he ties into the universe, even more so than like who the Mandalorian is, what's going on with this Moff Gideon guy. Like, that's the main thing I want to get from the show. Do you think that will be answered?
I think it will, but I disagree with you. I don't want to know where he comes from. And I'm going to go back to something that I've said in the past about Solo. I really enjoyed that movie, but I did not want to know the backstory. Part of the allure of Han Solo was, is he bullshitting you, or did he actually do these or accomplish these things? Yoda is kind of that same thing. He's such a we don't even know what his species is called, right? And we've
Mm-hmm.
only seen, we'll call it one and a half other species or other creatures that are him. You've got one in Phantom Menace, and then now you have Baby Yoda. I don't want to know where they come from. I don't want to know any of that. I want to know, okay, cool, we have this Baby Yoda. Take it for what it is. Where are they trying to get him to, and why is he not in the sequel trilogy? That's what I want to know.
That's fair. I think knowing they have a season two, I kind of hope they do the method of give us answers to some of our main questions, but if you want to leave some stuff out there to keep us intrigued, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I unfortunately I think they're gonna answer all of these in due time. I think this show is doing well enough where we're gonna get another season past the season two. At least I hope we do. But I think they're gonna end up answering a lot of these mysterious questions that we have.
So my other question, and this is a very obvious one, but who is this Moff Gideon guy who shows up at the very end? Like, I'm assuming Moff is like Grand Moff Tarkin. It's like you're high up in the Empire. But
Yeah,
now that
I'm
it's
assuming.
fallen, how does he have this power and power in terms of like influence?
So what I'm thinking is you had the Emperor, then you had Vader, and then you had all these Moff admirals and Moff Grand Tarkins, and he was one of those guys. And I think those, we'll say there's 5, 10 of them. I think they're all really jockeying for position to take over what's left of the Empire now.
Yeah.
And I think that this guy found out about Baby Yoda and knows that Baby Yoda has force powers and is going to try and use that to rebuild the Empire or some other sort of um, bad guy organization.
That's a great theory, and that works perfectly. I do want to know, though, how he found out about Baby Yoda.
I agree. I'm very intrigued by that. I'm a little nervous because if we only have one episode left this season, there's a lot to tell on that front. I don't
Yeah.
want to say that they wasted a couple episodes, but they wasted a couple episodes where they could have entered. I would be perfectly fine if we had an episode of just after the Empire fell, of just kind of the bad guys and that organization and what's
Oh, that'd
left
be
of the
so
Empire.
cool.
Don't even give me the Mandalorian in it.
Yeah,
I would
that
be
would
fine
be
with
really
that.
cool.
Set some other groundwork and set some other storylines up that they can all meet at this head.
Because, look, let's be honest. The show is called The Mandalorian, but the reason we're all here week to week is because it's in the Star Wars universe. So if you're
And I
the
think,
showrunners, I was going to say, if you're the showrunners, you don't have to justify explaining the fall of the Empire more to us. Like, we want to see that.
yeah. And I think the reason that you have a lot of people that have kept with it so long is because Baby Yoda is adorable. So now let's put some meat on that bone. Okay, cool. You've got us sucked in. Keep us here. I mean, chicken's ready. We're ready to eat.
Right. Another question I had, and Nate Thurman suggested last episode that we would not find this out until the finale, but they have to tell us who showed up at the end of episode 5, right?
They have to.
Okay.
They have
As
to.
as long as that's answered, then I'll be happy. What
That
did you
would be a
have?
huge slap in the face if they don't.
Yeah, dude, don't do that. Don't even try to go down that road. What did you have for theories questions?
All right. So, not so many questions quite yet, but so the droid that Takiki Watiti or whatever his name, whatever that droid is that Nick Nolte's character rebuilt,
Mm-hmm.
they obviously don't trust it because he was programmed to kill Baby Yoda. Well, now
Correct.
that Nick Nolte character is dead, what's going to happen to that droid? I think that droid is going to end up taking a bullet to the chest to save Baby Yoda, and then Mando and Kara are going to continue to rebuild him, almost like a joke where he shows up every 2 or 3 episodes, and he gets blown up again, and then they rebuild him. Then you don't see
He's
him for a
like
couple
Kenny.
days. Yeah, exactly. He's kind of like Kenny. I would be perfectly fine with that. But they start to trust him more and more, and it's going to start to become a bigger character in their little clan. It almost feels like they're building their own little bounty hunter team with Kara and Mando, and then now they can add this droid. You're kind of getting all the elements of a crew here,
Dude,
and
I
I
could
think
do a season 2 of those three, like just
yeah,
hopping around the galaxy.
even add like you have to add some sort of weird alien in there, like or like a Chewbacca or a what's the dude with the 4 arms from Rogue One, somebody like that. You need
Yeah.
that fourth like alien type species in there.
Yeah. I totally
Uh,
agree. That would be a crew I could get on board with. Pun intended.
I think yeah, I think that they're starting to build this little group, and that's the team that we're gonna follow along for hopefully 2, 3, 4 seasons. I don't know. We'll see.
Um, quick theory that I had. I mean, first off, we've got a finale now, folks. Like this is set up to where there's shit that I care about, and they've honed in on the story, and this is all sort of coming to a head. I'll never forgive the Empire for killing Q-Will. I mean, that guy was like the fucking
He was a
star of this
boy.
show. He was the man. But Baby Yoda has to die, right?
He has to die before they get to the events of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Now,
well in advance of that because
yeah,
Luke almost can't even know about his existence,
yeah,
really.
I and my other theory is still on the table where they're eventually going to try and get this Baby Yoda to Luke.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe it's Lucas started his Jedi temple where he's starting to train Ben Solo, and either he's found out about it or these people know that's a safe place to bring force sensitive creatures, and either they're going to get there after Kylo Ren destroyed it and Luke went into exile or something along those lines. I know we're probably still in the timeline, what, 10, 12 years away from that?
Yeah, but I mean, this was another like Hail Mary theory, but they were on Tatooine when that person showed up. I mean, it's not completely crazy to think it could be Luke, I guess.
It's not. My only caveat to that is it appeared that that person had a cape. Luke has never worn a cape.
Hmm.
But maybe he just was like taking a piss and he had the front of his robe hiked up and it looked like he was wearing a cape. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
I
have
can't
much to base
imagine
that
Luke would have a
on.
big enough dick to like show it in the scene, but maybe. I don't know.
Maybe he's more confident than ever now that they've defeated the Empire. I don't know.
Oh,
Confidence does crazy things. I've seen
that's
you after
weird.
2 Smirnoff Ices.
I,
You'll say nuts
I'll
things.
I'll fight anybody.
Last question I had. This is not a joke. This is dead serious. But how much do you think it would cost to rent one of those bartender droids that Werner Herzog had? Those like making drinks.
I don't know, but I'm looking into it for your bachelor party.
Thank you. I mean, granted, in the show, it took him fucking forever to make 2 drinks, so maybe we don't want to bring him in, but it would be
Well,
nice to just be able
that's
to
the
bar
cheap
for us.
version. That was that's the silver version. We're gonna get the gold or the platinum version. You get what you pay for.
Is that version the Martin or Michael Sheen character from Passengers that like actually has a bit of a personality?
Yeah.
Great, great Passengers reference. Uh, do you have anything else you want to add on theories and questions before we let the people go?
No, I think that's all I got. I'm really excited about this last episode. Little bummed that we have to wait so long before it comes out, just because of the scheduling of when this one dropped and Rise of Skywalker came out. Strategically, it makes sense for them to drop it this way. I just wish that we didn't have to wait till next Friday to see it.
Yeah. It's been a good ride though, and I have high hopes that they will not leave us disappointed. I think we'll get some good answers, and I think they'll do a good job of setting up not only the future seasons, but setting up the other things that they want to do in the Star Wars universe. This is a time period post Empire and before Force Awakens that I think is ripe to tell a bunch of stories. Like there's such a long gap, and after the Empire fell, there's so many different ways you can tell stories in this universe that I hope they kind of stick in this time frame, and
Absolutely.
they have a lot of field to play with in terms of like there's like a 30-year gap where we haven't seen anything. So fuck around with it, man. Have some
And
fun.
again, I mean, obviously we have a lot of knowledge now from the sequel trilogies. You can go back and use these shows and use these platforms to explain a lot of things that happened in those or that we were told happened in those and actually show us in these and really complement this trilogy. I mean, you could visit our Rise of Skywalker review, know our thoughts on that, but I think they can use this platform to reinforce and make that trilogy better than it is
Yeah.
by using this platform.
Absolutely. The Disney Plus shows can be a great app. And I mean, it kind of makes sense because they've announced the Obi-Wan show obviously doesn't take place in this same time period, but they're using it to sort of fill in gaps with the episodic
Yep.
movies. So do the same thing here. Just keep it
Yep.
up.
100%.
All right, for the mad scientist Brian Banner, I'm the mayor Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys for checking us out. Tune in next week for our review of the finale of season 1 of The Mandalorian. Follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Type in Bro Force Squad. That's 3 separate words. Type those same 3 words into letterbox.com to check out all of our reviews, and check us out on our website, broforcesquad.com, with all of our content. Thank you guys so much for listening to us, and we will see you in a galaxy far, far away. So no more I have spoken. It's over.
I know. I was just about to say, like, I want to say I have spoken, but I feel like it's rude. Very untactful.
It is. It's not even your line. It's his, so don't take it.